Hey, welcome back to Pop's Custom Cars. Hey, today we're going to do a little quick video on mounting up this condenser and everything over here at the pump. Let me show you what I've got. So we've got our inlet right there. We went ½ inch to ½ inch. There does appear to be a leak somewhere, either up here or down at the bottom. I'm almost believing it's down at the bottom. I might have left that open a little bit. But she's sitting at 60 pounds. It's been about a week. Actually a little over a week. Then on our top one, we've got the same thing with a ½ inch. So what we've got is we've got our line coming out of the tank going up to our water separator. I'm going to go ahead and lower this down because this mark here and that mark down there is where I'm going to mount the cooler so that the water line drops down below that. So that's kind of what I'm going to do. My hope is that everybody can see what I'm doing from here, so we'll see what happens. Can't promise much on the voice either. I'll probably do more of a voiceover than anything.
So what I have to do first is the valves that I've got that go out to the garage itself, those all need to be lowered down. So you can't see it, but I lowered them down a little farther so that I've got room for that condenser. So basically all I'm doing is putting up a couple of shelf brackets because probably later on I'll be adding a shelf. But for now, I use those two shelf mounts to put the condenser on the wall. I was going to mount it flush against the wall and bend those things, but I end up doing something completely different. But I make sure my brackets are all level and everything like you do with shelf brackets, and that way you know that you're good to go here. So once I've got them in place, then I can start mounting up the condenser to put it up so I can get my hoses routed and all that kind of fun stuff. So it's on to that now.
My thought is bend these up, but for the time being I want to leave it like this so that later I can add a fan if I need to. I don't want to destroy these brackets, but I do have a whole bunch of these, so it's not like I would be hurting anything. But I can bend them at those points, and that way she sits with these as brackets.
So as you saw in the little note, I decided not to bend these up because I need to put a shelf or something on there later, and I don't want to bend up these without doing it. I end up marking them so I know where they're at, mainly because I need to figure out a way to mount it, or just put it up there temporarily so it doesn't go anywhere. The line going out is looped underneath that, so it's steady in place as it sits, but I make a few changes on it to make sure that it works better. And I go out and I grab a hunk of 1x1, or I think 2x2, I'm sorry, and I screw that to the end of the end screw holes of the brackets, the shelf brackets, and that way I can slide it out because I realize I need air behind it because it doesn't do any good without air behind it. What I do now is I measure out the top because I'm going to go ahead and bend a bracket to hold the top temporarily in place. I just end up going over to the vise and banging it out so that it's square. I was going to put two of them up there, and I'm realizing I don't really need to, so I end up just using one bracket and putting it, or one shelf bracket, and putting it up there to hold the top up, which works out really well. Because later, remember, I do have to go back. I do have to cut that top line to make it come straight out and not point up to the sky like that, just to make things a little more aesthetic. It works the way it is, but it'll look nicer if it's way down and I don't have to worry about running into that thing because that thing bounces around all the time, mainly because those are not permanently mounted on there. Later on, I'll probably have to solder something on to make it work. So that's my intention here, is go ahead and mount that bracket to hold everything in place, and hook up my lines again.
This needs to move here so that it's a straight shot in. That way you don't have this big old loop going on.
And that's when I realized I can at least spin the hoses around and then tighten them like that so that they're sitting lower. They're kind of a little in the way, but it is what it is. So now that I've got my hoses all tight, it's time to go ahead and fire up our compressor and see what the outcome is. You guys are really going to be surprised with this one. So let's see how well this thing cools. And I was amazed, to just say the least. So I go ahead and get my thermometer out at the top. It's just fired up. See, she's running about 150 degrees, and that's just running a little bit. And as it compresses more air and goes longer and longer, the temperature at the top goes up. Bottom coming out is 67 degrees into the tank, which is just phenomenal. At most, the highest temperature I saw was about 71, which is far better than that top. Look how hot that thing's getting. And as it compresses and goes and goes and goes, and more it runs, the hotter and hotter and hotter it gets up there. And what is really cool is, even though it's getting really hot up at the top, it running through that condenser, it's going to cool it way, way down. And I'm just hitting the thermometer on all different places. But down at the bottom, we're at 68 degrees when the top's over 200, or almost 200 in some cases. So down at the bottom of the condenser, we take the temperature down there, we're 65 degrees. At the top, it's going in at about 127 degrees when you hit it right on the right fitting. And a lot of this is those fittings heating up. But you got to remember that air inside there is hot, and coming out down at the bottom in the 60s, which is just phenomenal. I take a few temperature readings across the condenser to kind of see how it is, but look at that, 67 degrees, and up at the top it's climbing. But different places I'm just kind of shooting around to see how that condenser cools down. But look how that temperature drops as you drop down that condenser. Up at the top again, we're 220 degrees at the top of that compressor, and then down the hose, we're running about 180 out of the top, or I'm sorry, 200 out of the top, and then down at the bottom now we're at 70 degrees. Still way cooler than that hot air, because remember, that line used to run right out of the top of that condenser, or right out of the top of that compressor, I'm sorry, and right into that tank. So that hot air was just going from the top right in that tank, forming condensation like you wouldn't believe. Every time I would crack that valve at the bottom, I would get a water stream before I got air out of the bottom. But yeah, sitting at the bottom, we're at 71 degrees now, and the top is still sitting around 130, 140. And then I just kind of shoot all over the place just to kind of see some different temperatures. But you can see how that temp drops as you go down and down farther on that condenser, down to the bottom where it gets 9 degrees. Now, mind you, I still haven't got a fan on that condenser. Imagine how much more that would cool. I mean, you really don't need to go below 60 degrees, but hey, anything's better.
Watch the magic happen. Get all that water vapor. And watch what happens last. The line drains down and everything releases, and the water in that reservoir drips down to the ground. So I'm going to have to put something on this to keep it that way. So you saw this thing at the top of that cylinder. 212 degrees this motor runs when it's pumping that tank, and it rises as it goes until it hits that 150. The pressure valve, the pressure relief is set at 151 degrees, or 151 degrees, or 151 psi. So she fills the tank to 151 psi. Now there is still air in these two lines. This one is hot to the touch. I mean, it's hot. It'll burn you if you hold on to it. This one, cool as a cucumber. So you saw the difference between the inlet and the outlet of this. Now, while this wood and hanger, or I should say shelf bracket, are temporary for the time being, until I figure out a better way to mount this, but this is definitely the way to go, because like right now on the bottom of this I feel the water, and that means that this over here will be low. Everything's lower than the outlet of the tank, so all the water will go down to this charge next. So that'll definitely help separate out some of that water that I've been having problems with. I did relocate all the valves down farther. I do have to relocate. I have a little 3 thing that comes out of that, and I put it at an angle because I had it way up here. But now that I've got it there, it can come straight out. I don't need 3 of them there. That's a novelty, I think, more than anything. So I'll just put 1 fitting at the end of this, and that'll be that. Filling everything up, relatively easy. This one's already full. I had all this extra whip hose, and I had that because I never knew where this was going to be, but this worked out great. So I've got it coming down the wall. I'll definitely put some clamps on it to have it stay still and everything, but for the most part, this is the setup. When I release the air on everything, I just close the valves here and here. Oh, I just had it up. There we go. Now that pressurized everything up to 80 pounds out here. Couldn't go higher, but I really don't need to. But that just shows you the difference in the temperature with just this little AC condenser. I do need to move this line here and make it and hook in here somewhere and make it straight, because the loop is kind of a goofy thing. What'll end up happening is I'll get condensation right in this area, and you don't want that. So I want a nice low slung way to do it. Granted, there is no pressure anymore, but still, you don't want that residual water anywhere. And this is, like I said, it's all temporarily there. But what's really cool is when this thing pumps up to pressure, and the valve cuts off the compressor and releases the air out of these lines, so this isn't pressurized anymore. And when this isn't pressurized, this valve down here opens up and lets the water out. So it's kind of an automatic thing, which makes it really cool. So that's kind of the setup I'm going to go with now. This will definitely help cool this tank down. Oh yeah, my tank is cold. You saw it going in there at 60 degrees. So definitely a long venture, a lot of errors made on the way, but just go flared fittings on aluminum and you'll be fine. You can go compressed fittings, but whatever, it doesn't really matter. I do have a tank leak. I need to find it. It's not up here at the top. I think it's the drain at the bottom, because I was really putting it to work, let's put it that way. But anyway, that's kind of the end of everything, and basically my temporary setup to cool my air down. And temporary as it is, you really can't get any cheaper than a $5 condenser. Got it cheap because it has little bent vanes and everything in it, but works good for what we're using it for. So any questions, comments, concerns, definitely put them in the comment section. Definitely like to hear from everybody. Just say hi if you will, and make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe so you can watch us do more weird stuff like this. So I'll see you in the next video.